What's going on, y'all? And welcome to Live in the Tank with Keith Deyo and Aaron Hairston. It's Monday, guys. Hope y'all had a fantastic weekend and ready to kick some butt this week. So, as always, definitely want to start off with some gratitude. Got the throwback on for all you fans out there. That was a good time for sure. Where are my Surge friends at? It's it's a sunny day out here. We had some crazy weather last night. I thought my house was going to blow down, man. It was crazy. But all is well. No power outages, nothing like that. That wasn't so much the case in some areas of Connecticut. So if you were affected, I hope that you're holding it well today, getting things cleaned up. And so, as always, go ahead and share what your gratitude is, what you're thankful for. I'm going to go ahead and share out some invites as well. So, yeah, man, Growth Week is continuing. I would say now it's time to implement. And that's the part that I get excited about, really, is now taking action even more and taking away what we took away and now putting it into work. Because, again, knowledge is only potential. Knowledge is only potential. How's that go? Potential power. There it is. Knowledge is only potential power. Now it has to do with what you're going to do with it, that you know it, right? So yeah, go ahead and share some gratitudes. I'm just sharing out some invites, get some people aware. What's going on, Chantel? Good to see you on here. How was your weekend? What are you grateful for? How is it going? So for me, I'm grateful for messaging, right? There's messages all around us. We always have things that are reminding us of some interesting principles that we've learned along the way. It was funny. I woke up this morning and I started off with some prayer, and I told the Lord, I said, Lord, whatever it is that you have in store for me, I know I can do it because you're by my side. And although we may be going through some challenging times, when I know I got the Lord at my side, I know I can conquer it all. And if I can't, I'm going to ask for backup, and the Lord's going to come in and give me that. So I'm certainly going to leverage that. So I woke up and it was funny. I had some boxes where we're just kind of doing some purging of the kids' room. We had some boxes and it said, never stop improving, right? Never stop improving. And it's interesting on the box. It was a Lowe's box. And, one would never think that message, on that box would be so profound. But it was really speaking to my heart, because I'm a firm believer that if we stop going for what we do want and we stop growing, we'll immediately start rotting and dying, right? There's no plateau. There's nowhere to stand at the top, right? There's no parking, as Les Brown states it. And so as we talk about improvement, we must identify, okay, well, what are some of the areas that I can sharpen, right, in our life? And I like focusing on strengths as well. I think, weaknesses are weaknesses, but I think that those things just come along with the package, right? And who we are, right? We're not going to be great at everything. That would mean that we would be perfect if we could be great at everything, right? And we know that that's not the case. That's not real. So you're going to have some weaknesses, and therefore outsource those, right? Know enough about your weakness that you can find who does know that as a strength and say, hey, I need some help, right? I need some help. Can you give me a hand, right? And, focusing on your strengths, right? And then sharpen those even better. And that was something that I had to realize for myself, because I felt that all the time I had to be good at everything, right? And I'm okay at some things, a lot of things actually, but there are some things that I still challenge. I'm still challenged at, and it used to frustrate me, and now I realize that, there's someone that I probably can reach out to that's better in that area than I am. And so it's not for me to compare my effectiveness at doing it. It's my duty to call them up, say, hey, listen, give me some help. I could use a hand. So what's up, Kelly? How you doing, Tammy? Good to see you. Christine, always seek higher ground, because the alternative means that we're dead. Amen. It's real, right? I mean, I've heard it from many, 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 many leaders that said, once you stop going for what you do want, what you don't want immediately shows up. Right? So if we get comfortable, and what I mean by that is stop growing, right? Stop seeking more clarity, right? And understanding, then what ends up happening is the gaps get filled with junk, right? And what happens when we have still water, Or what happens when we have lack of growth? Death starts to start, right? It's the other things, viruses and mold and, things that come along with stillness. So we want to keep moving. And I was reading oh yes, exactly. Knowledge is not power. It's the potential power. Yeah, it is. It really is. And I was just reading a book from John Maxwell. If you don't know about John Maxwell, I certainly encourage you to look up his books, because his books are really, really cool. He's a great author because he really helps the reader to be able to implement, right? So he's always starting his paragraphs off with principles, and tools and examples, and then he gets right into how we can implement it. And he was talking about leadership in this last chapter, and we're almost done with the book. We do a book club, and we're on the 10th chapter. And so the 10th chapter talked about leadership and the different areas of leadership, like natural leadership, proximity leadership, moral leadership. There's all kinds of different leaderships, circumstantial, right? Or situational leadership, positional leadership. There's all different types of leadership. And so we must first identify what type of leadership we adopt more often than others. And when we can do that, then we can figure out how we can sharpen it. Because I think, honestly, leadership is a reflection of what you help others do that you are doing, right? So if we look at where we are in our life and we think about this week, right, and the things that we're focused on and what we're excited about, we first must lead ourselves. So we can start with the intention and the motivation and say, okay, let me think about what drives me to this idea, what excites me about this idea, and then start to say, okay, well, who do I need to become to achieve this idea, or what do I need to believe in myself that will allow me to implement what it is that I want to accomplish, and then who in my circle can assist me with this. And I think for many people, that's a hard decision to make, because we don't want to feel vulnerable, right? We don't want to feel not in the know, or we don't want to admit the fact that we don't know. And that's important that we do that, right? Because if we don't, then how do we learn? How do we learn, right? So asking people, or first identifying the individuals that you're going to need in your circle to assist you with this project and what it is that you want to achieve, and then reaching out to them and say, hey, I thought of you because I'm working on this project, or I have this idea that I would love to implement, or I thought of you because I see that you're doing something I want to do. Would you mind having a conversation, because I have a few questions, or I have a few things that I would like to share with you? Simply doing that will allow you to surround yourself with other levels of influence, other levels of leadership. And you may find quickly those gaps are now being filled by things of use, right? Value. And so it's interesting when you start to think about your day and your week, don't always think about you doing it by yourself. Encourage and invite other people to take a look at it with you, especially those that you see that are on social media that may be in alignment with what you want to achieve. And I learned a lot of this by reading what others have been doing, right? Leaders like John Maxwell, he talks about his circle of influence. He talks about the people that he put into this mastermind group and what he was looking for when he invited him to that mastermind group. And it wasn't for him to just grow, but it was for everybody to grow around him. And then, you start to level up these groups, and you start to level up each other's value. And now it becomes this new entity, right, that you create. And so I want to encourage you that if you have a burning desire, if you have something in your life right now as an idea that you want to implement, don't seek it on your own. First, put God with it, right? Attach God to that. Say, Lord, all right, here we go. Let's do this. I believe that this idea and this belief inside of me is driven from you, right? You wouldn't have given me this idea if you didn't believe in me, or if I didn't have it in me to do it. So do that, and then say, okay, who do I need? Who is my team? Who is my team? Barry Craig, what's going on, man? Good to see you, bro. Yeah, man. Asking for help does not make one weak. It makes you stronger because you're willing to reach out and grow. Amen, Christine. That's what it is, man. Teamwork makes the dream work. We know that phrase, right? We're better together. That's the one I've been leaning on lately. We are better together. Amen, Keisha? Yeah. I hear it on every single keynote that any powerful keynote has shared. Denzel Washington says it, put God first. Eric Thomas says it, put God first. Les Brown says it, put God first. So it's no surprise that that's coming out of my mouth as well. So yeah. So that's the second thing, right? So now find your circle and the people that you're going to run with. And then number 3 is, how have you handled differences in the past? Okay. And these differences are challenges, okay, opinions, roadblocks, problems, right? How have you handled those before? Because these are very important to the growth process, right? If we don't have resistance, then you know what really are we doing? Okay. If everything was easy and it had no consequence, or it didn't have any type of resistance, then really we wouldn't grow. It would be boring. It would be mundane, and most likely it would be not valuable. Okay. So how have you handled these situations before? And so I ask myself that question. And sometimes it's hard to swallow when you say, I haven't handled it in a way that was effective, or I haven't seen myself move through that challenge before. I've always ran around it, or I've always avoided it. Okay. Or I wish somebody else would have to deal with it. So you must recognize and be aware of how you're handling these challenges, so therefore you can delegate properly. All right. And here comes that circle of influence again, right? What problem have you had challenges with longer than you would like to, right? And then who do you know who's overcome that? Well, let's go ahead and get that person involved. Let's go ahead and reach out and say, hey, listen, I see that you've been very good at doing ... and I haven't been so good at ... Can you give me some advice, right? Can you help me to fill in this void? And that's where that humility comes in, right? Humility is that recognizing of our faults and our weaknesses, and then rectifying them quickly with resources. And Christine talks about gifts and beliefs are given to us for a reason, because we are meant to impact the world and people. Not sharing them is selfish. Amen to that. Dennis says, hola, what up, man? You notice how I kind of switched into a Spanish accent when I said that? That's awesome. Tammy, what's up? What if you do not have a circle? Great question, Tammy. Create one. Start with the idea of who would be in that circle if you could create the perfect circle, right? Start with some characteristics, some things that are important to you. Start with your own values. Had a great conversation the other day about that, right? We must know what we represent, not because of what other people think that we represent, or not because of what other people's opinions of what we should represent, but what we actually feel in our heart. Like what makes us who we are. Okay. What are our standards and our values? And then you go back to that number 2, where I said, know who you are. Okay. And understand what's missing. Okay. And don't look at that as a weakness, right? Look at it as something you need to find. And then you start reaching out to people, right? And you can start to quickly find those people when you start to focus on that. So say you're looking for someone who's been very good at communicating with strangers. Okay, let's just say that, for instance, right? Because in order for you to expand your network, you're gonna need to meet some new people, okay? Some people that you don't know. Some people that maybe on social media that are in some groups that you're, have a common likeness of, and then, you don't know who they are. So if you're looking for expanding your network and you want to talk to somebody that's good just talking to strangers, well, let's think about that. Okay. Where would those people live? Where would those people be? Where would they be? And so you start thinking about that and watch what happens. Our mind is incredible. And I learned this in some other principles and some things I read, but what we focus on, we find, right? So if we are able to define our value in what we're looking for, then what will happen is it will start to show up. Has anybody thought about like a red car, right? While you're driving around and think about red car, all of a sudden you start seeing red cars everywhere, right? Or my son, it's a funny game. Like he's obsessed with Teslas, right? So he's like, I see Teslas everywhere, and I'm like, okay, and he's like, I just see them everywhere, and it's funny because I don't see them everywhere, right? But every time I'm with him and he says I see them everywhere, I start seeing them, right? So there's a principle in place that says, we find what we focus on. Okay, so if we're focusing on finding those resources, Tammy, and finding those people, what I've found to be true is that if we focus and define it, it will show up. It will show up. So just start to put more effort and energy towards what it is that you're looking for. Not in the lack factor, of like saying I don't have, but say I want more of. Okay, start focusing on what it is that you want. And again, finding your values, finding your standards, okay, what it is that you believe in and who you represent. That's so important because in this day and age, there's so many opinions, there's so much stuff out there that will influence us. And if we don't have some sort of foundation, we may be building our beliefs based on sand, right? And what I mean by that is just a very unstable foundation, right? Because there's nothing there of meaning other than, oh, well, that person thought it was a good idea, so I'll run with that. And I've been challenged with that, growing up, really not having an identity other than sports and football and things like that. And then when I started to get into other environments, that really didn't always translate completely, maybe in certain areas, but it didn't always translate completely. And then I started questioning, like, who am I? What am I doing? Why am I doing this, right? And it gets frustrating, mostly when things aren't going your way, right? Because now it's not only that you don't know who you also are not getting the best out of life that you feel you deserve. So now you've got this, battle and conflict in your mind. And so reflecting back on who you are to say, okay, what do I believe in? What is really, truly important to me, right? And then as you start to focus on that and you get really clear on that, when you start hearing opinions and ideas, you know what to adopt and what to let go. And once you know that, you'll start growing, right? You'll start to be nourished by your environment and you'll be able to recognize where the weeds are. Does that make sense? You'll start to recognize where the toxicity is. And Les Brown has an amazing book, You Gotta Be Hungry, and he talks about OQP. He talks about only quality people. But more importantly, he talks about what value do you bring to that circle, right? So if you are only surrounding yourself with quality people, then who are you in there, right? Are you also quality or are you just withdrawing from everybody else's quality, right? That's a big one. A lot of people put themselves in situations so that they can get where, okay, I get that. That makes sense. However, how long do you think that's going to last before your environment starts saying, hold on a second, we got this third wheel here and it really is not complementing what we're doing. We need to take a look at what's going on here, and then that conversation is had, and then you have a choice. You say, okay, well, do I want to contribute, right? Or do I want to remove myself from the situation, okay? So very, very important. So that was the third thing, is really focusing on what it is that you need and surrounding yourself with that and knowing your value, okay, and what you bring to the table. And then the fourth thing is really having that courage, okay, to think for yourself. I believe that there's a lot of influence out there and people have really adopted a lot of belief and opinions of things that isn't going to make them move forward. It's going to make them justify why they are where they are. And what I mean by that is that they don't know, they don't have the boldness or the courage to stand up for themselves, right? They want to fit in because the feeling of being different can be fearful to some people, because they don't believe in themselves. Their self-worth is low. And again, it goes all the way back to that first thing I talked about, knowing who you are and loving that, right? Knowing that you're going to have some things you're good at and some things you're not so good at. And how are you handling that? But I think it's very, very important that we start to follow our heart and what we feel good. You know what I mean? Good feeling, even if it doesn't, if others don't agree of it. If that makes sense. That makes sense, guys? Make some hearts and some thumbs, right? We need to be brave and and full of courage when we step out into the world, because the world needs us to who we are, right? We can be great chameleons. Okay, we can always be great chameleons. We can get really good at copycatting, but being original and unique is what we've been born to be, right? And so that's important. And I want to emphasize that, especially with these young kids growing up where, TikTok and Instagram and all of this imagery of what they should be being, right, and doing, they don't even have a second to even think about who they are. They're always trying to fit in, or always trying to see what others expect of them. Okay? And yes, Dennis, choose courage over fear. Choose faith over fear, right? Believing in yourself, so important. What's the book titles? Leadership by John Maxwell. Another good one is the Win Friends and Influence People is another really good one by Dale Carnegie. That's another one that I referenced here. And then there's so many. I'll go ahead and I'll go back in there and comment in there. But You Got to Be Hungry, Les Brown. That was the last one that I just spoke about. So it's so important. So encourage that. And I encourage you guys today, be yourself, be bold. Fortune follows the bold. Okay. It's so important that we be ourselves and to, again, listen to opinions, listen to ideas, be open to everything, close to nothing. However, be yourself and be okay with that, because that's what the world needs. It needs more of you being you and your translation of what's going on and your ideas, your creativity, your imagination, and your uniqueness. All right, guys. So that's been the tank today. I think Keith must be on assignment somewhere. So I love you guys. Thank you always for chiming in here in the tank. And that's what it's all about, is just coming together collaboratively to make a bigger and better message for those to follow. Share this message. And for the hundreds of thousands that will see this on replay, go ahead and just hashtag replay so that I can see you guys replaying in there. And if you have any questions or anything that you would like to talk about, please reach out. Let me know. We're all in this together. And the stronger we believe that, the more we can do. All right, guys. And I will see you tomorrow on the tank. Same time, same place, 12 Eastern Standard Time here live in the tank with Keith, Deyo, and Aaron Hairston. Peace.